So the new Godzilla X Kong movie is coming out, and I was so hyped, so I did 100 days in a kaiju-infested planet. So I woke up on the beach, as always, looked around to see where I was, then I swam over to this like little island, and I was gonna build here and start my journey here because it kind of looked safe. There was a lot of like omnivores here, and I was like, yeah, you know what? I'm gonna start building here. And just like that, on day one, I already saw my first Kaiju. I didn't even know what it was called. I knew it looked like a behemoth, but it wasn't big enough to be a behemoth. Then I soon realized that building on this like little island was not gonna be a freaking choice because I saw this Rex killing this Bronto, I stole some height, and I got myself out of there. I swam across the river, then I came up here and I killed a few devils to get a little bit more height. And then I ran myself across the beach, and you know guys, I feel like I'm cursed. I feel like I have a curse, and the curse starts with an R, which is a raptor, and every single time I do 100 days, something always happens in my first 5 days that involves raptors. So I followed these raptors, and then I killed one of them, then the other one kinda tried to dispatch me and turn me into mincemeat. I got away from it just in the nick of time, and I jumped into the water, and I was safe. For now, it was leaving me alone, it was swimming away, and all I had to do now was swim back to the shore. And you guys know the way I say I'm cursed by raptors? I'm also cursed by something else that starts with a P, and it's called piranha. Because as I left the water, a piranha came to attack me, and I stupidly went back into the water and got trapped at these rocks. I don't even know, like, this was like a 0 IQ play for me, and I had my first death day one already. Spawned back and I got my stuff. I managed to run away and kind of bullet this raptor, and then from my left side peripheral view, I saw this terror bird running at me, and it absolutely destroyed me. And at this point, I didn't even know what to do anymore. I was just upset because this side of the map was just way too hard for me, so I decided to spawn somewhere completely different, and maybe I'd get some good, some good spawns. And when I spawned, I saw some dodos. I was like, yes, finally. So I started farming, trying to get myself a little starter base made up. And then these pegomastics just kept stealing my stuff and taming themselves. I also tamed myself a moss chops, and I got myself a little pre-made starter base. And I was like, you know what? This pre-made base looks kind of cool. I put down a bed here so I can finally respawn somewhere. And I went out to tame myself a Mesopithecus because, you know, I don't know if you guys know, but I like monkeys, you feel me? And then I started putting some walls around my base because I needed to defend it because there was some stuff that tamed here that were kind of really like scary. And as I was doing that, a Therizinosaur walked right in my base and started attacking my newly fresh placed gates. And as you know, I stand on business because that's what we do, we stand on business. I started fighting to defend my base, and everything was going good at first. I thought he was just gonna ignore me until I killed him. But the TZ has different plans because he turned around and he ran right at me, and oh boy, this was a war. I tried to run away as fast as I could, and it was just so scary. I put my K-cam around and I looked back, and this guy was just catching up to me. I hadn't put in any movement speed, so I was going so slowly, and inevitably, he got me. And again, that was my next death. I ran back, got all my stuff. I also lost my monkey during this whole process. I put the gates back up and I finished protecting my base. So I felt like we were protected now, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's gates everywhere. It's day 3, we should be okay, right? I then put out a few more things in my base so I could start progressing a little bit. Went out with my moss chops to go get myself some metal, and I was walking around this forest when I just noticed something that was kind of moving that shouldn't have been moving. And like, what in God's name is that? That was a freaking kaiju. That was my first kaiju that I've seen up close, and it was a forest titan. I did end up finding some metal, so I harvested that, went back to base to put down a smithy and make myself my first metal weapons, and I've made like a Kitan helmet because gave me a little bit more protection. I then went out to find myself a PT because I needed to get into the sky as I needed some crystal, and I only knew about one place to get crystal that was kind of close, but I'd rather fly there than swim there. So I tamed and saddled up my PT and went right to the cave because I wanted to get these crystals. And then I tried to like battle test my PT because I thought it was ready to like get some levels by killing mobs. I quickly found out that that was not an option, and he was too squishy. But I was not gonna let myself get killed by these low-level insects in this cave, so I ran away. Yeah, I know, I called them low-level, but I ran away. Yeah, it is what it is. I went back to base, I made myself some more equipment, so because like, you know, when you're playing a mod like this, it's kind of scary to have really like bad equipment, even if the rates are boosted. I went out with my newly made awesome spyglass to check how much torpor this tree titan had, and it wasn't too bad actually, so I went out with my moss chops to collect some narco berries just so I could start making some good old narcotics. And I found a level 145 PT that I actually knocked out because it was a 145. What am I gonna do? Let it die? went out, did some more farming, and then I went back out to check those freaking gigamoths, because now I could see that they're called gigamoths, but they were just a smaller version of behemoth, so I was like, not bad. And not too far away from my base, there was a freaking dragon. There was an alpha dragon. I wasn't ready for this yet. I did see this tree entity that kind of looked like it was stuck.
Okay,
I quickly found out that it wasn't stuck, so I had to build a trap because I knew that if I tried to do anything, I would get one-shotted. So I just built a trap, shot it, made it come to the trap, and when it got into the trap, I started laying down some wood. Oh no, some wooden arrows. Pause. It did take me like 20 minutes, but I did manage to knock him out, and then I killed this Carno for some good old prime meat, and I stuffed it up its butt, and then I had myself my first Titan. I called myself a freaking Forest Titan, and I was happy with myself. He had pretty decent stats for my first ever big tame on this mod in this 100 days, which wasn't too bad at all. And during my time going around the map, I just saw some big huge name on my screen. I didn't even know what it was. All I knew was it was crazy as hell, and there were so many kaijus all around the map. I did risk it all to get some obsidian at the Obsidian Mountain, but I didn't care. No Rex was gonna kill me when there was titans and kaijus running around. Ain't no way. I proceeded to go on a few material runs. I went on a metal run on the mountain with my PT. Luckily, I had my weight a little bit boosted so PT could carry some metal. Then I wanted to take my tree titan out to go figure out how much damage it did. Then it kind of started doing this sped dance. I'm sorry, it's a little bit special. Bro just kept doing the jiggle. But I actually found out he did quite some good damage, but I did also find out that even killing one of these forest titans didn't really give me anything, so it was kind of pointless for me to farm them in terms of killing them for materials. And when I was out again in the snow biome looking for some stuff, I found a Megapithecus. It was a beta, so I was like, if I kill this, did I get the engrams and some element? So I tested it out with my tree entity, and I can tell you now, man, that monkey was moving so fast. It was like Sonic the Monkey, bro. Not Sonic the Hedgehog, Sonic the Monkey. So I cut my losses short, and I got my tree entity back into a ball, and I ran. I did manage to go towards the volcano area because I wanted to see if there was any wyvern eggs, and I was gonna go to the wyvern scar as well, but your boy kind of chickened out halfway through because I kept seeing that big monster name at the end of my screen, and I was like, ain't no way I'm gonna go near that because I'm on a PT, respectfully. So I went back to base and I decided that I'm gonna tame a few more tree entities because I did want to go kill that Megapithecus because it was just free element and free engrams if it actually gave me those, and I was curious to see if it did. So I went out, I tamed a new tree entity, knocked it out. I did find a Spino to kill to get me some more prime meat, tamed the tree entity up, and I went back to base, and then I found that these tree entities could mate, but I had 2 females. So I needed to go get a male. So I did go back out to try to get myself a male, trapped it, knocked it out, and I went back to base. I started breeding a bucket load of these baby tree entities. And I can tell you now, I don't know what's going on. They were kind of disappearing and reappearing. They were like chameleons. They just disappear, reappear. I don't know if you guys can see this, but like it's kind of weird. And after I got myself a big old army of tree entities, I was like, you know what? These tree titans, they might be small, but a lot of them are definitely gonna do the job. So I went back to the snow region, found myself that Megapithecus, put all my 3 entities down, and we shredded this guy. This guy could not hold up anymore. He thought he was strong against one of them. What about 8? He ain't gonna do nothing, boy. And as I thought, when we defeated him, we got all the tech engrams that he gave, and I got myself an ascended element node. I didn't know what this was. This is the first time I'm seeing something like this, but then it said you could use it, and when I used it, I kind of got a decent amount of element. But for a beta boss, like 50 something odd element is nothing. So this was not going to be a sustainable method overall throughout this 100 days. I did do some farming before going back to my base because I needed to get more metal, and what's the best place to do farming except for the snow biome. And just like that, that concluded my first 10 days, and I was on a good track. I got myself my first kaiju, I defeated my first boss in 10 days. I kind of felt like a professional, you know what I'm saying? Like, you feel me? I then spent the next couple of days spoiling some meat because I didn't have a meat spoiler yet. I didn't even know I could make one, and when I realized how stupid I was. Like, I was literally waiting for meat to do spoil. Then I made myself a lot of narcotics, and my narcotic production was not going as fast as I would have liked it to, and I needed a lot more narcotics to make the good ones. Like, there was this mod I had on that let me make better narcotics, but I needed like so much just to make one of them. Then I decided to go out and find myself something to help me get berries a lot faster, and I decided to just tame a Bronto, and I found this level 90 Bronto, so I popped some arrows in it, made it pass out, and then there was this Rex around the corner that was kind of like getting close to my unconscious Bronto, so I decided to just knock him out too. He was a 135, so I was like, you know what, might as well do it, why not? Then I went over to the mountain where griffins spawned to find myself a griffin because I was also scouting for a new base location, which I did find in the desert. I found a really good little like plateau that I wanted to build on, and it was pretty lit, so I was getting ready to do that. Then I went back to pick up my now tamed Bronto and Rex because I needed a Bronto. The Rex I didn't really need, but the Bronto, yeah. And just like that, my berry collection just went way up. The moss drops was okay, but this Bronto was like leagues above. Then I started producing way more narcotics, which was gonna help me a lot because I was gonna start taming some things with a little bit of more torpor, and I didn't want to waste my time spending 20 minutes knocking something out with regular arrows. And during my journeys around the map, I saw this Akukiri. This thing looked kinda scary, but it was a passive tame, and all I needed was Kaiju cells. And I believed that I could get myself some Kaiju cells. So I went back to base because I found my base spot and I wanted to start building on it. I went back to base and I made myself a Viking long haul in my pre-made structures bench. And I went out to set this down at the new base spot. It was a pretty nice base spot. It was kind of like open, and my little Viking hall just sit perfectly on this one rock, and it looked pretty cool. And I made myself a staircase because it looked cool, but it was hard to get there on foot. And now I had completed it and my base was looking good. I had a new base and it was a bigger base, and this was kind of a lot safer because it was way above ground. I went out to set up some gates because with all these titans and kaijus and whatnot around, it kind of got a little bit scary. And I did notice that there was a boss very close to this new base spot I had chosen. I decked it out with a few little things, you know, a few little thingies, and I went out to check what boss it was, and it was a Callisto. So this was like just like a bear that had other bears. I wasn't too scared of it, but it was still a problem. And on my way to go get a griffin, I saw my first kaiju from Attack on Titan. There was the Beast Titan throwing rocks like he always does. Almost took me out of the sky, but I survived. So I simply just made my way to the mountain to go get myself a griffin because I needed to upgrade my speed and mobility in the air, and a griffin was my best bet. And I was starting to like knock this griffin out. Everything was going perfectly fine until he started running away. Because I didn't trap it, he kind of just kept flying into the sky. So I had to do some Evil Knievel, Mission Impossible type of stuff to try tame him. I had to parachute and jump off mid-air, and I was kind of doing all sorts of stunts. But it did end up paying off because I did knock him out mid-air. It looked pretty cool as well. So you know what I'm saying? Like I got some brownie points for that for myself, you feel me? Once I knocked him out, I shoved some meat up his butt and I went on my way. And I went back to my base because Callisto was getting very close to us, so I had to put the rest of the gates out and actually put in some actual doors on these gates so they couldn't just walk into my base. And I ended up making some teleportation pads because I needed to be able to move around the map quite fast, especially when I had these big, huge kaijus around. So I put the teleportation pad down, took my newly tamed griffin to the old base to pick up the rest of the stuff there, and I just kind of emptied out the base, and this was it. I was completely moved from here. I did leave these pagos here because I don't like pagos. I don't know about none of y'all, but I do not like pagos. They are just the most annoying creatures on the Ark. And then I took my tree entity out to the swamp because I wanted to do some farming, and I also wanted to kill a few of these gigamoths because I wanted to see if they dropped me some kaiju cells. And it was actually quite easy killing them. The only thing that was bad was they had this aura. Their aura kept like hitting me, my character, and not just my tame, which was kind of annoying, but I did manage to kill a few of them, and they did drop kaiju cells and some gigamoth lures. And they also dropped some element and element dust, which was kind of really nice. And I found a level 145 gigamoth, which I decided to tame. So I started shooting it, and when it was almost knocked out, I got attacked by a few raptors. I dispatched them real quick, and by the time I finished dispatching them, and I had looked up to go try find my gigamoth, for some way, somehow, some reason, it kind of just disappeared. And I was so shook because I literally only turned around to make sure Akukiri wasn't going to attack me. And by the time I turned my eyes back to the gigamoth, it was gone. And I mean gone. I couldn't find it. It was literally there 1 second.
Wait, no.
Then gone the next second.
Kill it?
So I had to put my griffin out, get into the sky to look for this thing because he was almost knocked out. Ain't no way I'm gonna spend more narcotics trying to knock out this level 145 gigamoth after all that time and effort I spent on him. This was annoying me. I was not about to lose this gigamoth. And I went to check Akukiri to see if I could actually tame him, and when I got close to him, I found my gigamoth. I finally found my Gigamon. He had ran halfway across the map, bro. How did he get there so fast? I do not know, but bro had ran halfway across the map in the blink of an eye, so I had to tame this guy. Ain't no way I was letting him slide. But unlucky for me, there were some things around that kind of wanted to kill my Gigamon, so I had to dispatch of all these Rexes around. I killed this Tech Rex real quick, and that wasn't too hard, and then this other Rex started swimming. He started swimming, and when I used my tree entity in the water, I sunk to the bottom of the water, and I couldn't hit the Rex. And he swam right over my head to my Gigamon and started biting it. And I tried to save the Gigamon. I tried to do everything I could, but I was hitting the Gigamon, and before I knew it, the Gigamon was dead. After all this time and all this effort, it happens to the best of us. It happens to the best of us. Then I decided to go try tame the Kukiri, and I realized that I needed actual active Kaiju cells and not just dead Kaiju cells, which was the only thing I had. So I went out to try find another Gigamon to tame, and at the swamp I found a level 135, and I had to get this. Like, this was like, I was like, yeah, this is mine, I gotta get this. And I knocked it out, and unlucky for me, again, the Gigamon decided to run into the ocean and pass out in the ocean, and I was deeply concerned. And as any regular rational thinking human does, I jumped right into the water that was full of Sarcos and Capros just to check his oxygen, and apparently these guys can survive underwater because they were taking no oxygen damage, and I was like, okay, pretty dope. So I went around the map killing some more tech creatures to get some more element dust because I needed to make some active Kaiju cells to tame that Kukiri. And on my adventures, I found myself a freaking Jaeger. So, okay, look, yeah, I know, it's called a freaking mech, but I call them Jaegers because there's Kaijus on this planet. I threw my tree entity down just to knock it out and kill it, you know what I'm saying? Because I needed to get that element dust, and to my surprise, he got killed pretty quickly, and I got myself my first Jaeger core, which I was gonna use later on to make a Jaeger. All I needed to do was get enough Jaeger cores. Then now, with my active Kaiju cells, I ran up to Kukiri and started taming this guy. And yeah, it worked. The active cells worked, and he was actually passive. He did have an aura that was killing me, and it took me like almost 2 days to tame this guy. He just wouldn't eat. He just wouldn't get hungry again. And looking back at this footage, whenever I was near any Kukiri, there was always like this big dense fog, and it really annoyed me. And the fog was always in my base, and I didn't know why the fog was always in my base. But watching this content back now, I just realized that every time a Kukiri was out, there was a fog. The fog wasn't the world. I even put an anti-fog mod on, and it did nothing. And look at this. When I potted him, the fog vanished. I then went over to the swamp to go tame myself, my Gigamon. I finally got 2 more Kaijus, and these were more or less closer to the monster world. I knew Gigamon was the smaller version of Behemoth, and I started getting damaged when I jumped into the water to tame this Gigamon, and I almost died. Like, I swear to you, I almost died trying to tame this Gigamon just from its aura. Like, its aura was that strong. But I did manage to tame him up, and I took him out on a little spin, and this guy was moving. He was moving. For a big guy, he was moving. And then he was farming so much resources that I swear to you, my game started lagging because it couldn't keep up with how much he was farming. This guy was farming the whole swamp each time he hit anything, and it was great because that meant my berry collection just went up 16,000 fold, and I was not angry at all. Then I got myself back to base with my new mammoth, and that's when I went to try something. I wanted to see how big a Kaiju had to be to get over my gate, and well, my Gigamon just walked right over that thing, and that put the fear of God into my soul. So I had to come get my Kukiri and went right out to do some farming, because apparently this guy can farm everything. Like, I mean everything, and he's pretty good at it. So I went out with him and used him to just farm up as much material as I needed to make all the Behemoth gates to close off my base. And during all my farming, I found myself a Gamma Dragon boss, and I wanted to fight it just to test how strong my Kaijus were against the world bosses. And I quickly found out that my Kaijus are not that strong against the world bosses, which really like kind of set a precedence for how weak I was if I wanted to fight any of the big Kaijus who could literally one-shot me. But after a long and gruesome fight, I did beat the Gamma Dragon, which gave me some more engrams and some element. I then went out later that night and I came across a Terminant B, and I swear to God, like, this thing was said it was a passive tame, but it was killing everything in sight. If it's passive, how am I gonna tame it when it's killing anything it sees? And then I was like, you know what? I don't want a giant wasp in my base, so I'm just gonna leave this thing. And as soon as I went around the corner, I saw this demonic looking ass freaking creature. This thing was called Arachnorona, more like Corona. This thing looked like a virus, and it had its own music to it, so I was like, ain't no way I'm going near this. Like, what is going on this night? Like, everything is just spawning. And to top it off, I went around the corner from him, and there was a freaking owl beast. What even is an owl beast? Like, is this a horror movie now? But the longer I played this mod, I figured that more of these kaijus were spawning, and it was getting low-key scary, but I could definitely do this. Like, I'm a professional, you feel me? I then made my way over to the Aberration Island because I wanted to tame a few light pets. I needed some lights in my base, but I didn't want to be normal and regular like everybody else. So I wanted to use light pets to like light up my base so I didn't have to keep like touching them and things. Pause. That didn't sound too good. So I tamed myself up some light pets. I got myself some glowtails and some bulldogs, which just kind of gave me just enough to light up my base as much as I needed to. And if I needed to in the future, I could just breed them and have like lots of babies and then like just use them. And then I decided, you know what, it was time for me to go and tame Callisto because she was right under my base and she was basically kind of easy to tame because I could just sit on my griffin and shoot arrows into her, and I had better arrows now, which are gonna do a lot more. The only problem was that she was right beside the Beast Titan, and the Beast Titan was throwing these rocks and he had his little minions running around the place. But after some like 20 minutes, I finally knocked out Callisto, and all I had to do now was wait for her to be ready to tame. When I felt like she was ready to tame, I went back to try pop some food into her because she needed to get these active kaiju cells. And when I say I'm cursed by raptors, like I'm not even joking. When I landed to put the active kaiju cells in her, I got stuck in her by a raptor, and then I didn't know if I could make it out of here. And during all this time, when I finally got onto my griffin, I got attacked by some microraptors, and life just became a nuisance for that next 40 seconds.
Oh my god, there's a microraptor as well.
I ended up having to hit Callisto a little bit, which took down her taming effectiveness by so much. Like, I was just having such bad luck, and it was always because of raptors. But after all this nonsense, I still managed to get myself to Callisto. She wasn't the best. She kind of was weird to use, but she did spawn in other bears that I could use, so I could literally spawn them in, cryopod them, and use them, which means I could always keep her safe and just use them as like the fall guys, which wasn't bad at all. And now I had myself a set of kaiju that weren't the best, but they weren't the worst. And it wasn't too bad. Like, I felt like I should have been a little bit more ahead in 30 days, but it was only 30 days. I had a lot of more time, and I still hadn't seen any of the major big kaiju from the Monsterverse yet. So that was what I was trying to see. Then after that, I decided, you know what, I'm gonna get some of these bears that Callisto can summon. Let's see how strong they are. Let's see if they can kill the Beast Titan, because he was right outside my base, throwing rocks into my base, and I just didn't want him to blow anything up. So I took a few of these bears, got them ready, set them at the Beast Titan, and yeah, man, before I even landed on the floor to support them, they was dead. They was all dead. They all got toasted, and soon after, I got toasted. It is what it is, man. We just wasn't that good, man. Skill issue, just a skill issue. I then went around the map looking for any more kaijus to spawn because this island had a lot of Rexes and things, so I thought the Rexes took up the same spawn areas as the kaiju, so there had to be a kaiju here, right? And I was 100% right. There was a freaking Manila here, and this was a passive tame, so I just thought it needed some raw prime meat. I killed the Rex, got some prime meat, put it in my hotbar, and jumped down to tame this guy, and yes, aura, my favorite thing. And I just couldn't seem to find the tame button when I went close to him. So I tried a few times. I even landed on his tail to try find the tame button, but there just wasn't any tame button. And his aura threw me off him, and I got myself killed. And yeah, I had to do an extra speedy rescue mission with a PT to try save my griffin because this Manila was super strong and one shot would have actually killed my griffin. But when I got back, apparently my griffin was okay. The Manila just kind of like ignored it, so that was pretty cool. Then I decided maybe if I knock him out, I might be able to tame him passively if he's knocked out. Maybe that was the trick. But yeah, when has that ever worked in Ark? Never. So I wasted so many arrows to knock this guy out. These arrows were expensive, by the way, and it didn't work. So I kind of just gave up and left him alone. I then went out to the swamp to do a little bit more farming with my Gigamoth because I wanted to make some more narcotics because I just wasted so many on that Manila that I was super low. Went back to base, and that's when I noticed something a little bit scary. There was a freaking Godzilla on the mountain across from my base, and I could see it from my base. So I went out and just started making as much narcotics as I possibly could because I needed so many to knock this thing out. I didn't know how hard it was going to be. I even went back to the swamp to do another berry run, and while I was there, I could see this Godzilla running around, and I was so hyped. I needed a Godzilla, so I sent my Gigamoth back to base. I even put out my Akukiri to do some more farming, and I ended up getting into a fight with dragons, and I just knew I wasn't going to win, so I ran away because these dragons were toasting me and freezing me. And when I got back to base, I saw another boss spawn at my base, so I just had to, I've been procrastinating on putting my behemoths down, but this was the perfect time to put the behemoths down, and I was so scared. As you can see, I made 2 behemoth lines. And then I went back out to go find this Godzilla, and unfortunately, guys, Godzilla had totally disappeared. He was there when I was farming and everything, but I went around the whole perimeter and he just wasn't there. And he moved too fast and got away from me. I just didn't know. But when I did land to catch my breath, I did find myself an anti-Kaiju Jaeger, which looked pretty cool. It was also level 150, which was pretty awesome. So I was gonna definitely have to defeat this guy and make one later on in the 100 days. But for now, I was still kind of just a little bit sad that I couldn't find Godzilla. I did a few more base things, some raising, some narcotic making. And then I went around just to see if that Godzilla was still out there, and yeah, I just couldn't find him. I decided to tame a Spino because I needed to go get some silica pearls and some black pearls, and I just didn't want to do this with a really squishy tame, so I thought a Spino would be not squishy enough. So I did go to my little mini cave to come get some silica pearls to make my Spino a saddle, swung around, got my Spino now all tamed up, went back to base and put a saddle on him. And I set out to just again look for that Godzilla, and now there was 3 bosses right outside my base. 3 bosses, but they looked pretty small, so I was like, you know what, I could probably take them, so they shouldn't be any much of a problem. I wanted to get a little bit closer to see if I could see their names and their HP. And when I got closer just to see their levels and things, there was a giant Okeanos. Bruh, why was this guy the length of the map and his moves were so far, his moves were spread out so far, they kept going so far, it was like they were hunting me. What was I looking at? What are you seeing on the screen? What are these moves? I instantly knew that this guy was going to be a big problem. It was so bad, I even ran to my base and his moves were following me. I had to hide under a freaking bridge because his moves were following me. This was not good, this was not safe. My base was in imminent danger and there was nothing I could do because that Godzilla I wanted to tame had disappeared. I did then decide the next day to go out to sea because I needed to get some black pearls. If I wanted to tame a Godzilla, when I saw one, I would need myself a lot of element, and I didn't have a lot of element, and I had an element crafter which needed black pearls. So I had to get myself out there to sea, and when I was on my way to sea, I found this thing called a Valkyrie, man. I didn't know how strong they were until I looked at it, and this thing was just demonic. It had so much HP and so much torpor. I was not going to be able to tame this thing, not right now in my current state with my current equipment. So I went into the ocean with my Spino to go do some farming, and I ended up coming across this Tuso who was level 100. I thought I could take this Tuso, I'm on a Spino, I'm litty. But yeah, the Tuso made short work of my Spino's HP, so I had to run. I tried to run and he pulled me back, but I did manage to finally get away. I then decided, you know what, this Spino was not gonna make it down here. I potted her up, and after I potted her up, I put out my Akukiri, who was actually pretty good at swimming and pretty good at fighting underwater, which kind of made my life a little bit easier, and he was super tanky, so nothing down here could kill me. I ended up fighting 2 Moses at the same time, and I defeated them with quite relative ease, and right under them was some black pearls, so I picked that up, and then I went over to the other spot on the map and picked up more black pearls and got myself out of this ocean because I hate being in the ocean for longer than 10 minutes, okay? I then went back to base and realized that I actually needed artifacts as well to craft myself some element, but that wasn't too bad because I knew where a few artifacts did spawn, so that was easy peasy lemon squeezy. And okay, I just want to point this out. You see the way there is one fish for the past 10 days? I thought I was going crazy. You see the way there's only one giant fish, right? Just hold that thought. Hold that thought, okay? Hold that thought, because I thought I was actually insane. And then during my adventures, I found Godzilla. Godzilla was still here. I don't know how I missed him. He was still here. This might have been a totally different Godzilla as well. I just didn't know, but he was pretty close to where I saw the original one. So I was like, this is going to be my first Godzilla. It was only level 15, but it was just so dope. And he also had his atomic breath, which was super cool. And I was going to tame this thing no matter what. I knocked out this Godzilla and I ran all the way back to base just to make myself some atomic fish meat. I only needed one because it was such a slow level and I had enough things to make one atomic fish meat. So this was going to be a piece of cake. And that was it, guys. I had tamed myself a Godzilla and we had got our first major kaiju from the Monsterverse and I was happy with myself. This guy was so freaking big. This was the most menacing, scariest, most brutal dinosaur I've ever seen. Like, this kaiju was crazy. Like, he was so scary, and I had not seen anything this scary in Ark ever until he started dancing. I don't know why he could dance, but apparently it was a thing. I did test out all his moves and I found myself loving the atomic breath, but there was a big cooldown, so you couldn't do it as often as I wanted to, but it was super devastating when it did happen. I then went back to base and then I realized how big my Godzilla was and how small my base was. Godzilla was like 6 times my area. It was really hard to store this guy. And he made a Kukiri look like a freaking baby. Like, this guy was not even up to his kneecaps. But it was okay. I had enough space to store it, so it was just kind of like cool just to have it out. Then I found myself an ascended crossbow blueprint in a drop, and that was so awesome. And then my first like regular Ark occurrence happened. A freaking Thylo jumped at me and took me out of the sky, which was like a first. Nothing like this has happened in quite a while on this 100 days. And then on my way around the map, I saw another Godzilla. This one kind of looked stuck. He was in the water between like a little island or 2 little islands, and he just wasn't moving. So I was like, this is like an easy time, you know what I'm saying? Like, I just tamed this guy super easy, and it was super easy. He barely moved when I shot him, and he was unconscious, and all I needed was another atomic fish meat, and I was working my way around the map. I found, in the space of 4 days, I found 3 Godzillas, and one of them was a level 60 female, and Godzillas can breed. You can breed Godzillas, so I could totally have an army of Godzillas ready to defeat any boss, especially that one fish outside my base. See the way I said one fish? And I went back to base and made all the atomic fish meat I would need to get all my Godzillas. But before I went to feed and tame my Godzillas, I want to do a little bit more testing on the Godzilla I had. So I was kind of just messing around. Then I learned a very valuable lesson. If you jumped off your Godzilla while he was using his atomic breath, it was going to kill you. So I learned that real quick. But again, every time I tried to fight with my Godzilla, I ended up dancing. It was actually getting frustrating at this point. Then I went back to base, got all my element ready, went to go tame up all my Godzillas, jumped into the ocean, tamed this one, grabbed this guy and grabbed her, and then now I had a mini army of Godzillas and I was ready to start mating myself an actual army. So I took them all back to base and I started the mating process. And I'm telling you now, it was so crazy. The baby Godzillas were bigger than my Kukiri, which was terrifying. But I would need every single one of them to defeat this fish. So after a couple of days, I had a small army of Godzillas getting ready to come fight this stupid eel that was terrorizing me. And I went around the map for a little bit just to check out the spawns. And by the time I got back, my Godzillas were kind of almost ready to go. So I potted the ones that were fully grown up and I put a few more babies out because it was almost time to get these Godzillas to go fight that eel. Then I started hearing a weird noise, and when I looked over the edge of my base, I saw a freaking colossal Titan. So obviously I wanted to kill it. By the time I jumped down, threw out my Godzilla, it was gone. Typical Titan BS. Spawn up, go all big, then disappear in a cloud of smoke. He was totally gone, didn't know where he went to, but I just had to deal with it. I then decided to go take a Godzilla over to that Jaeger and kill it because I wanted to see if I could defeat this Jaeger, because this was an anti-Kaiju Jaeger. I'm on a Kaiju. Can you kill me or no? And obviously with ease, I destroyed this Kaiju. It had pretty cool moves as well, so I did really want to make one, but I need a lot of Jaeger cores to even craft one. And then on my way back, I almost ran into this Oceanus. Okay, how come, why come this thing could hit my Godzilla from so far away? I was so far away and yet its moves were still hitting me. I went back to base, put all the levels into my Godzillas and healed them up, had them all ready, had them all on attack target. I then went out to set them all out because I was tired of being tormented. I was tired of being targeted by this freaking beast at my base, making me feel unsafe in my own world. And I went to fight this guy, and remember when I told you guys that there was one, right? We all agreed that there was one. Why is there two? And why did I get killed immediately? Like, I did not know what was going on. I had to go back to base and get on my Griffin, and when I got back on my Griffin, I could just see all my Godzillas being wiped. Some Godzillas were so scared they weren't even fighting. I tried to go back and just kind of help out my Godzillas and try to get them back in pods because this was a losing battle. There was nothing we were going to do to win this fight. There was only one when I first came, and now there was two, and I didn't know how two just appeared. Like, why does this game hate me? I did manage to get one or two of my Godzillas into pods, but the rest I just had to leave them. There was nothing I could do for them. They were too close to the Oceanus, and it was just RIP, you know? I then went around the map sulking like a baby, killing everything just to show that I am the dominant force on the map because I am Godzilla, not because I got beaten, okay? That was just, it is what it is. I then made a nanny because I wanted to raise my Godzillas but have them get an imprint, so the best thing for me to do that with was the S plus nanny. So I made her. I set out so many Godzilla babies. We were not messing around this time. We were going to win with even stronger Godzillas. Like, do you hear that noise? That's all my Godzillas breathing. As I was raising the Godzillas, I was putting them all in this box, so just so I had like a collection of all the ones that worked. I was raising so many Godzillas, they were even meshing through the freaking mountain and falling into the floor. That's how hard I was going, you know what I'm saying? I then made some more narcotics. I want to go around the world and just see if I could find a better Godzilla to make my breeding line a lot better. Then I equipped my light pet, put him on my shoulder. We were looking the same, gang. And again, I got more Godzillas ready. This time they were all imprinted, they were leveled, they were all super strong. The Oceanus was not so terrifying this time because we knew what he was capable of. So I went up above him and I just started dropping Godzillas like they were airdrops, supply drops, man. I just dropped these things. I did not know what was gonna happen, but they looked like airdrops to me. But this time we were going to win. We had more Godzillas, they were stronger, and they were imprint boosted. For the next day, it was just raining Godzillas, so much so that they were all stuck. Like, this was a crazy sight. How did I need this many Godzillas just to take out 2 world bosses? This was insane. And days passed. I couldn't even join the fight. It was so boring watching these guys fight for me because if I went anywhere near this, I would just get absolutely annihilated and I didn't know how to combat that. So I just had to watch them and hope that my Godzillas on their own were going to be smart enough to take out and dispatch these 2 Oceanus. As time went by, my Godzilla started to dwindle. They started dying. We had like 20, then we had like 15, then we had like 10, then we had like 8, and it just didn't look good. So I went back to base to grab more Godzillas because I was like, they're not gonna win. And before I even got back to base, they started dying even more, and I was like, wow, I didn't make enough. And when I got back, the Oceanus was almost dead. They were on their last legs, and I threw out more Godzillas, but we just kept getting defeated. 2 of them were just too strong for us, and again I watched all my Godzillas die, and that was the end of our second attempt. And I just went on top of this pier and I just started brooding. What were we going to do? And then when I was going around the map, just exploring and just kind of looking for a stronger Godzilla or just a stronger Kaiju, really, like anything, maybe a Ghidorah or a Rutalong, anything, or even a Behemoth. God, give me something to come and destroy these Oceanus with. I just need something. And that's when I ran into a level 130 female Godzilla. Yes, this was going to make my breed line so much stronger. Knocked her out, went around the map trying to get a few resources, trying to get some element as well. I found this brood mother Lystrix. It was level 150 and it was also an alpha. I pumped some arrows into it, but it had so much torpor and I didn't have enough arrows to complete this tame, and it almost one-shot me as well. So I said, you know what, right now I have a Godzilla unconscious, let's focus on that, and later on I'll come back to get this brood mother. Went back to base to craft some elements so I could make myself some atomic fish meat. I had to go around the map and collect a few more artifacts because I just didn't have enough to make the atomic fish meat I needed. Then I put a teleportation pad here because I didn't want to just have to fly every single time I needed to get an artifact. I had to fly across the map to the volcano. So I just put the teleportation pad there, made things easier. And around the corner, there was another Godzilla. There was a level 90 female Godzilla. It wasn't great, but it was gonna just be another Godzilla to add to my army to fight those bosses with. So I went back to my base, but by the time I got back to base, I realized that I didn't really need another Godzilla, so I might as well just fight that one. And after I made my element, I took my Godzillas and I started leveling them up by killing the Centaurian. The Centaurian would give me lots of levels and a little bit of gear and some element shards, which is going to help me out in the future. So I just used them to kind of level up all my spare Godzillas that I was going to use for this battle against those two giant fish. And after I did that, I saw a lot of bosses had spawned across the map, so I took one of my Godzillas and I went out to defeat all the bosses. I kind of rotated my Godzillas so each one would kind of get full levels from defeating these alpha bosses. So I spent the next couple of days just going through all the bosses, trying to get some element because the element was going to be used for making atomic fish meat, to tame my new Godzilla, and it was going to be needed in the future anyway. I just needed as much as I could get. And later that night, that's when I realized, oh yeah, that Godzilla I saw earlier was still alive and still there. It was time for me to go test my Godzilla versus that Godzilla to see who the real Godzilla was. But during this fight, I did find out that Godzillas can't hurt other Godzillas with their atomic breath or their atomic aura, so yeah, I just had to fight this Godzilla fist to fist, hands to hand. And after a long and gruesome fight, I ended up winning as always. Well, I was stronger, so I was obviously gonna win, but don't take nothing away from my Godzilla. And that's when I realized that killing Godzillas would give me Godzilla dorsal fins, which I was gonna need in the future if I wanted to summon King Ghidorah. So now I had enough atomic fish meat to tame my 130 Godzilla, got them on me, and went out to capture and bring her back to the base. She came out with a whopping 3.1 million HP. This was gonna do a lot because all the other Godzillas I had thrown into the first two fights, I was literally putting them to 3 million HP. So if they were starting with 3 million, was gonna be a huge game changer. I immediately set out my Godzillas. It was time for you guys to mate. I needed babies and I needed a perfect male to match with this female. And it took me days to get a perfect male, but during that time I did get a few imperfects that I was gonna just use as fodder for the boss fight, so it didn't really matter too much. And my stash of war Godzillas was getting stronger again. We had more and more by the day. I did decide to go back out to find that broodmother because I made more arrows, enough to knock her out. She had 35.7 million torpor, but it was okay because I felt like I had enough arrows and I had that 200% crossbow now, so that's gonna make things a lot easier. So I worked on her until I finally got her to pass out, and basically it was a pretty easy tame, which was really, really good because imagine it was hard to freaking tame an alpha broodmother. I didn't even know if this thing was gonna be strong enough to survive a kaiju attack. Tamed her up and she had crazy stats, and she was rideable without a saddle as well, which was really nice. I love when bosses are rideable without saddles because I don't have to go make a saddle, and if I make a saddle, they will be even way stronger, which is super awesome. So after I accomplished that tame, I went back to base to check on my Godzillas, and when I found out they were okay, I went back to the Centaurian mountain to kill Centaurian again because he had spawned. And I basically just used him to level up as many of my Godzillas as I possibly could. Every time he spawned, I just came back. And again, every single time I tried to attack something, I was dancing. Why was I dancing? And now we were rushing onto day 70. I wanted to finish and defeat that Okeanos by the time it was day 70. That was my goal, and I had 2 days left, and I found more world bosses around the map when I was on the Centaurian mountain. I love the way they just pop out and you can see them from wherever you are, so you can just kind of like go to them and kill them, which is pretty awesome. And after I went out and took out all the newly spawned bosses, I had a lot of element. Some of the bosses did do a little bit of damage to me, like the Manticore almost knocked out each Godzilla I tried to fight him with. There was like 4 manticores, and they basically kind of put half torpor on all my Godzillas, which was very scary. The dragon wasn't so bad, but the dragon does have that fire breath that takes away 25% of its HP each time it hits, which was really devastating, but my Godzilla took her out of there real quick. She did not stand a chance. After defeating all the bosses, I went back to base to more grown-up Godzilla babies, and now the force was getting strong. Our force was mighty. And they were all leveled, all ready to go. All I needed to do now was to make some healing brews, heal them all up, and we were ready to fight. So on day 70, I started healing them up, leveling them up, and I played Ark for a very long time, but I did not want anything more than to defeat this freaking fish on my 3rd try. There was nothing I wanted more than to see this fish be defeated. I had lost so many Godzillas. My heart rate had raised so many times. I have literally threatened this game that I was gonna quit so many times. Ain't no way we were going to lose this time. And the worst part was the Okeanos weren't even at full HP anymore because we had put them down so much. One of them was at half HP. That's all we needed, was them to just pass out, just go die. And we started the process all over again. Oh, wait, yeah, I forgot my Godzillas. Yeah, I had to go back to base and get the Godzillas again. Then I started throwing my Godzillas out like supply drops, and the battle was on. We had one goal, victory. We had one vision, victory. We were the gods of this map, not this freaking fish. And as we were fighting, something miraculous happened. We defeated one of these fishes. I did end up dead because I thought I could go in and help them fight. Boy, was I wrong. Nothing had changed. I was still gonna get killed. I just didn't want to see my Godzillas fight on their own. It was kind of like whack of me to just stay there and let them fight on their own. But as I respawned at my base, got my Griffin ready to go out, I saw a beautiful message at the top of my screen. And that message said, Okeanos has been defeated. 1 down, 1 to go. If Ark was a normal game, we would have had 1 down, fight finished. But
there's an egg. Yo,
I did kind of notice an egg that was left over, so I kind of figured that Okeanos had dropped an egg when I killed it, which means I could get myself my own Okeanos, but like, my Godzillas were all using their atomic breath. And remember, I can't go near their atomic breath when they're using it. And there's another Okeanos, right? So how was I gonna get there to get my egg? And when I could finally go to get my egg, 2 babies had spawned. The eggs had hatched, and my Godzillas killed them.
Why did they spawn? Why did
the eggs hatched and my Godzillas
Why did the eggs
killed
hatch?
them.
Oh no, one of them was an aggressive.
All of this hard work, all of this fighting, they killed the Okeanos.
Oh, that's
I don't even know how to explain this. At that point, I just called it a W. At least Okeanos was dead and I was safe. I just took it on the chin and moved on. I crypotted all my Godzillas, then I went to collect all the loot we got. We got hella loot, and this was some good loot, which is gonna help us out in the future. So for now, I just stocked it all up and I put it all away. I had to even make some fridges just to store all of the loot. Then I went back out into the world to do more exploring and just see if I could find any more creatures. And then I came across a Rambe. Okay, this was the first Gigantopithecus looking monkey I found, so I had to tame it. Then I went around the map killing some Godzillas because I needed to get a dorsal fin because I needed 15 to make the Ghidorah spawner. So I went around the map, collected 15. Well, I thought I collected 15, but really I only collected 14, but we'll talk about that later. Then during my adventures to go find more dinos to kill and to find any titans that I could tame, I came across a level 150 behemoth. But not the behemoth from the monster world. It said it was tameable and I had to knock it out, but I pumped hella arrows in it and it just didn't pass out. So I wasn't bothered anymore. I was like, man, look, there's so many things on these mods that I don't know how to tame and I don't think I'll ever know how to tame, so I might as well get on with it. I had only 20 days left. I then went out to explore the map when I came across a Ragnarona. This time was level 140 and I was actually able to tame it because I was at that point in the gameplay. So I was actually pretty stoked about this. I knocked it out. I left it there to get a little bit hungry before I tamed it because I like starve taming things. It's just the easier way. Then I went for a quick supply run, had to get some metal, stone, and crystal because I was getting ready and geared up to make the Ghidorah spawner. And I tried to make the Ghidorah spawner, but I just didn't have enough weight. So I had to make a respec potion just to get enough weight to make it. And when I got enough weight, I didn't have enough resources. I didn't know what it was. Then I realized that I actually only had 14 Gojira dorsal fins. I needed 15, so I had to go find a Godzilla. I did find one. It took me like a day to find one. When I did, got my Godzilla out, went over, killed it, got that last dorsal fin. It was time for me to create a Ghidorah summoning token, which I was just like, I didn't know. I didn't know if I should fight it first or tame it first, then fight it the second time because I didn't know how strong it was gonna be. So I just prepped for taming it because if I could only do this one time, I might as well try to tame it. And that's what I did. I spawned Ghidorah and I didn't realize how powerful Ghidorah was and how big Ghidorah was because he spawned right behind me and was instantly aggro to me and I had to run. And Ghidorah was just so massive. Like Ghidorah was taking up so much space and I was like, how am I supposed to tame this thing? Because if I went near it, it would hit me. It just would. And then it did this one move that absolutely destroyed the sky with lightning. And I was like, nope, 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 nope. I needed something stronger to get this guy. Then he tried to fight me and then I just ran. Look, okay, look. When you see that guy flying at you and he turns red, that means danger. Danger means red, right? So I ran away. I then decided to get as far away as I could and throw out a Godzilla because I was actually able to shoot off the head of a Godzilla and the Godzilla should keep me safe enough where I don't take damage so I can shoot some arrows into Ghidorah. And my plan worked. Even though I did take a little bit of damage, I was able to knock Ghidorah out. After like 15 minutes-ish, he passed out and I was ready to tame him. So I parachuted off my Godzilla to go feed my Ghidorah and again, aura. Why does everything have aura that kills me and destroys all my gear? Like, am I a joke to you? And I almost died. I was one tick away from dying from his aura, but I survived and Ghidorah tamed up hella quickly and I just got myself a Ghidorah. I had a Gojira and a Ghidorah and it was about to get lit because Ghidorah was so strong and because he was so big, he was flying so fast and covering so much distance. This was the perfect tame. So once he tamed up, I went all the way back so fast. I was like a kid with a candy bar in my mouth, super excited. Went over to look at my Ghidorah and look at Ghidorah in all his beauty. Like this dude was just perfect and it was mine. He was massive though, so I didn't know how exactly I was gonna fit him in my base, but I was gonna make it work. I took him out for a test flight and his moves were just booming. Like they was hitting. And he wasn't even leveled yet. So I knew this guy was gonna be a big addition to my battle power. So I went out and I just used him to kill Behemoth because I couldn't tame Behemoth and if I couldn't have him, no one could. And fighting Behemoth was super easy and I was having so much fun until Behemoth did one move that suddenly made me fall off my Ghidorah and I almost died. I don't know what happened. Like I was fighting 1 second, the next second I was off my Ghidorah and it was like, I don't know man, it was scary, it's very scary. But I did manage to survive and get back onto my Ghidorah. After trying like 4 times, I finally got back on Ghidorah and after an epic fight, I finally killed Behemoth and I got 345 bits of element, which is pretty dope. That was like fighting a beta boss, so I was not mad at all. And can y'all look at the way Ghidorah flies? Bro jumps into the clouds for his takeoff. Like, look at this. That was just so beautiful. The people who modded this they're just perfect. Then I went out to make a Kaiju. So basically, I didn't know if it was gonna spawn aggressive and I had to tame it, or if it was just gonna spawn crafted in mine, like a mech. So I went out super far away from my base just so in case it spawned and tried to kill me. But no, Kiryu actually just spawned and it was mine. And now I had myself a Mech Godzilla and the cool Mech Godzilla. This guy looked like a freaking Megazord. So I was like, that was super dope. And he was huge as well, which just looked super cool. He had lasers on his shoulders. And yeah, I loved Kiryu, and I put him out beside my other Kaiju from the Monsterverse. And yeah, we was looking tough. I decided to make a Doug bone because I wanted Doug. He was another monster from the Monsterverse, and he was huge. Doug was huge, and he was so freaking strong. This guy was hitting for 500,000 per hit, which was insane, and that was unleveled. So now I was collecting a significant amount of Kaijus from the Monsterverse, which was making me really happy because I was getting closer to the end of this 100 days. I did go out to do a little bit of farming again. I needed some crystal and some other resources, so I took my Kukiri out just to do that, and then I went to farm some more Godzilla dorsal fins because I wanted to summon another Ghidorah. And I wanted to fight this Ghidorah this time just to see how hard it was going to be if I had to fight it and not tame it. So I got all my Kaiju from the Monsterverse ready. I went out to the desert and I put out all my Kaijus out, ready to go. And when I spawned in Ghidorah, oh man, Ghidorah did bits. I had a very long and monstrous fight with Ghidorah. Literally lasted 2 days. And during that time, Ghidorah ended up killing my Kiryu, which was super sad because Kiryu, we were almost done. We were like 6 million HP left, and he killed my Kiryu, but we did defeat him, and I avenged my Kiryu. And my Ragnarona was just so small compared to all the other Kaijus, and I was like, I thought this guy was crazy massive when I first saw him, and now that I have Godzilla and Ghidorah, he's just so small. But he did come with his own team music, which is pretty cool as well. I then made a breach crystal, which a Rajin came out of. So if you've ever watched Pacific Rim or read the comics, you'll like, Rajin was just super cool. I did love Rajin, but he just spawned, and I was like, I didn't know that Rajin was gonna come to this. I just made it because it was the next one on my list. And I couldn't actually tame him while I was on Ghidorah, so I had to go back to base and get something where I could tame him, and it was a pretty easy tame. Again, I don't know about y'all, but I like to make taming easy for myself. So I went back to base and I got my Godzilla because I could shoot off the head of my Godzilla, and Rajin shouldn't be able to kill Godzilla now. Like, that would have been a little bit weird. So I shot him a few times with a few arrows, knocked him out, and I went back to base and made some altered Kaiju blood and came and fed it to him. And this dude was pretty dope. I love the humanoid style and I love his moves. But he wasn't exactly a creature now from the Monsterverse, but he was a Kaiju in itself. He did have this one move that was super cool where he punched himself in the face and got loads of energy, then punched the ground. But he was one ugly son of a... I then went back to my base and put out my Rambe, and I was kind of disappointed. It wasn't big enough to be a Kong in any way, shape, or form. And I wanted something to be a Kong. Like, I needed a Kong. Like, we needed Kong in this place. I spent the next couple of days just farming a little bit because I needed to get as much narcotics as I could because I was hoping to find a few more things to tame before this 100 days was over. I did find a Hydra in the swamp, and I tried to tame it because it had a torpor bar, but even though I shot it multiple times, nothing seemed to knock it out. And again, another dino that I didn't know how to tame. I made a second chemistry bench because I wanted to get these narcotics being made faster because I had no time to waste. We were in the crunch time now. I spent the day just flying around the map, trying to figure out if any new spawns had come in, and I was hoping if any new spawns had come in. I did a whole tour of the map, and when I got close to my base, for some odd reason, I don't know how I didn't see it, a freaking Skullcrawler had spawned right outside my base. This was the most freaking aggressive creature I'd ever seen, and it spawned right outside my base, and I didn't know what was going on. That could have been very, very dangerous. I looked at it and it said it was a passive tame, but why is everything a passive tame, but they're the most aggressive creatures? What am I supposed to do? It's gonna kill me if I go near it. How do I passively tame this thing? Like, come on, guys. So I just waited for it because it had a few mechanics where it would stand still for a few seconds. So I waited for the most opportune time to like go down and try to tame it. And once I saw an opening, I jumped off my Griffin. I ran over to it with meat in my hotbar, and it didn't give me an option to tame. And when it turned around, before I could even turn back to look at what was going on, my Griffin was dead. The Griffin I had had since the start of this 100 days.
That's the OG Griffin, bro.
My heart was beating fast. I was upset. This Griffin had been with me since like day 20. We were on day 83. and it just died like that for no reason. I went back to my base and I got myself a dragon, and when I came back I realized that I got 10% taming effectiveness, which I could only attribute to the fact that that skull crawler killed my griffin. So I started getting dinos to throw out at it, and I threw out a very high level Spino because it do give a lot of XP points. So I wanted to see what happened if it killed a high level Spino and how much XP it would get in terms of taming effectiveness. And I was right, it got 99% taming effectiveness from that Spino. So I was like, yep, all I need to do is sacrifice some dinos. So I went out and I tamed some real like low, small dinos I could tame just so I could literally sacrifice them to the skull crawler, which ended up working, and I got myself a skull crawler. It wasn't the craziest dino ever, but it was another kaiju from the monsterverse, and it had a jump ability as well, which was pretty cool. And now I had to go and find myself a new griffin because my actual griffin got killed from my attempts to tame the skull. Yeah. And I found a griffin that was tameable. It wasn't the best level, but then I did find another griffin right afterwards. And once I took care of the stego that was trying to kill it, I tamed him as well. And now I had 2 griffins, so I had a backup plan in case something bad happened again. I should have had a backup plan from the start, to be honest with you. Then I was flying close to the redwoods when something random just fell out of the sky, and I got so scared until I realized it was just a MOSURA and it wasn't actually gonna do anything to me. It was a passive tame, but during this 100 days, the one thing I forgot to do was set up some crop plots, and I needed some crops to make the MOSURA's food to tame it. And this wasn't looking great because I had no crops, and I had no honey, and I had nothing that I needed to craft what I needed. And then at the edge of the redwoods, I found a King Kong. So this King Kong was actually from the 2005 King Kong movie. So he wasn't the biggest, but he was just a black, like, giant ape gorilla, like, just like the movie, but he had great stats and he was level 180, which was weird because things should only be spawning in at 150. So the fact that I had Ghidorah spawning at like level 750 and all this other stuff was kind of crazy. And right behind that King Kong, I was flying around and I saw a leatherback, and I got scared as hell because where did this leatherback come from? How was it just standing there? And I just double checked what I needed to make the MOSURA snack, and I just couldn't make it. Didn't have anything I needed, but I could make some leatherback stew, so I made 2 of these to go back and tame that leatherback. I knocked the leatherback out, and his animation for when he falls unconscious is so funny. Bro just sits back and is like snoring, which is like just crazy stupid. And while my leatherback and King Kong were unconscious, I kind of saw a skull crawler right beside them, and I knew I had to dispatch this thing. This thing was super aggressive. If it got anywhere near my tames, it was going to definitely attack them. So I had to go back to base, get Ghidorah, come back out just to kill it before it did anything to my tame dinos. And after a little bit of a squabble, I defeated the skull crawler, and now everything was safe. And I went over, picked up my leatherback and my King Kong. And as soon as I picked up Kong, I realized that there was another skull crawler. Were they like spawning in freaking duos? Because what was going on? And it started chasing me, so I had to literally run to Ghidorah, pod King Kong, and jump right on Ghidorah's back. I then decided to take my King Kong out for a little bit of a stroll. He was good, but he just wasn't big. If this King Kong had been a little bit bigger, it would have made up for the fact that we didn't have a MonsterVerse current version Kong, but he was just so small. In regular Ark terms, he was big, but it wasn't the same, and I just couldn't feel comfortable knowing that this was the best Kong I could get. Why did they have to take the Kong mod away? I went back to base and I started checking out what I needed to summon a KAITAN Prime boss. So this was gonna be the final boss we would need at the very end to fight and check out how strong our MonsterVerse Kaijus were. And until then, I went around the world just finding things like Godzillas to kill for their dorsal fins and just basically admiring my Ghidorah look, right? He was beautiful, you feel me? And during my adventure, I saw some random red scorpion looking thing fighting a boss that was literally the opposite of the Oceanus that killed us. And I was like, how is he fighting and winning? I was literally a million miles away and I still got affected by his effect, which was crazy to me. Then I explored the map to look for a few more bosses to kill because I wanted to stock up on as much element as I could. And by mistake, I ran into this big red creature and he immediately ground. Oh my god, that sounds How could I get so close to something and it's just, my screen just said run. My screen said run. And did you hear That freaking music, that was chilling. And his moves just wouldn't let me move. I couldn't fly, I couldn't get away. So I tried to fight him, but I was doing basically no damage and he was just shredding me. So as soon as his moves wore off, I just got into the air and I got out of there because ain't no way I was fighting this thing on my own. And here we go again, another world boss threatening my life and making me fear and be scared to live and exist on my kaiju planet. And once I could fly, I got out of there and this guy followed me. This guy was aggro to me. I was halfway across the map and he was still aggro to me. I had to do a whole 360 of the map just so I was sure he wouldn't come to my base because he was following me everywhere I went. And even when I got back to my base, this dude was climbing the mountain towards my base. Who modded this? Whoever modded this needs to get fired. Like, why would you put this in Ark? I didn't even know it existed. It was scary. But when I could finally confirm that this red hell beast wasn't coming to my base, I went back to my base and I got myself prepped. Ain't no way I was letting no world boss bully me. Not anymore. So I got everything prepped. I got my Ghidorah prepped. I got a few Godzillas. You know I'm talking business when I bring Doug out. That was my OP trump card. You knew I was talking business. And before I even got prepped enough to start the fight, this guy attacked me from halfway across the map. And the fight just started. I wasn't even ready to fight them. I hadn't even set my Godzillas on attack target. But we ended up fighting it and we were defeating it, and I turned my back for a second to go pick up some more of my Godzillas, and before I turned around, bro just disappeared, like he literally vanished. I don't even know where he went. I don't know if we killed him or if we just decided to, like, I don't know, port out of there. But after we defeated him and I didn't actually get to see it, I was a little bit annoyed. So I decided to just go and fight Gaia. He had already basically beaten Gaia to like 30% of her HP. So I was like, we might as well fight Gaia and kill her and, you know, get some free element. And it took us a couple of minutes, but we did absolutely destroy Gaia. And when we destroyed Gaia, I was potting up my Godzillas when I found that in one of my Godzillas, we had gotten a lot of veggies. We literally had all the veggies and some honey and things, which meant I could totally make some Mothra snacks and tame a Mothra. So I ran back to base and I got all the stuff I needed. I made a tree platform, made some sap collectors in hopes that I could make some Mothra snacks. And once I had made my Mothra snacks, I literally went back to the redwoods and I tried to tame a Mothra. It was only level 25, so like, obviously it only needed one Mothra snack.
Let's go.
No, I got like 26% taming effectiveness. What was up with that? The only Mothra snack I had, the only one Mothra snack I had, and I only got 26%. This game does not like me, and I do not like this game either. I then went to go pick up a dino that I had knocked out earlier. It was called Zilla Ark, but this thing just looked like a weird Rex mixed with a Reaper. And then I was exploring more with my Ghidorah when I found a Rodan. I was flying past the volcanic region and I found a Rodan flying there causing havoc. And I was so happy. If I couldn't tame a Mothra, I could definitely tame this Rodan. So I went back to base and I got myself a Godzilla because I could shoot off its head, went back to the Rodan and I started knocking it out. Once I had it unconscious, I jumped off my Godzilla, parachuted down, and again, Rodan had aura that was killing me. But when I landed, I couldn't tame it. I thought I could put food in it and tame it, but then I realized that I missed the most important thing. Rodan was a passive tame, and I had just knocked it out. And I didn't even know how to passive tame it if it was awake. So I decided to just kill it, and when I was killing it, I used my atomic aura, which leaves a flame effect, and it kind of started taming up with my atomic aura. So I guess if you like damaged it with a fire or burning type move, it would tame up. But this Rodan was way too injured to be tamed by my atomic aura, so I ended up just killing it and ran around the map for like 2 days, and finally in the desert region I found another Rodan, and I totally had to tame this one. So I was super careful and I actually tamed it using my atomic aura. I had to literally tank this guy, but it didn't do too much damage, thankfully. But Rodan was just lit. It flew lit, it had a kamikaze attack, and it was just like the perfect flame bird. And whilst I was flying around with my Rodan on my way back to base, I saw some random tech-looking creature called an Drago. I did not know what was going on. It said it was tameable and I had to knock it out. But again, it had no torpor value, so I just said, you know what? I'm just gonna kill it because if it has no torpor value, what can I do? When I did knock it out by damaging it, I couldn't tame it. There was no taming option when I was close to it, so I did not know what was going on. I just kind of said, you know what, I give up. So I just started poking it to death. I just needed the tech resources, so poking it to death was my best choice. I then went back to base and I made another Kiryu spawner because I wanted a Kiryu. I couldn't go to my final battle without a freaking MECH Godzilla. So I made a Kiryu, went around the world trying to kill as many bosses as I could. Then I found this thing called a world turtle. It was basically just like a Cairo, but it was just super huge. Knocked it out, continued going around the world, killing all the bosses I could find to get as much element as possible. Went back, picked up my world turtle, and then I made my way back to base, and then I came out to the desert to set out all my kaiju. So I set out as many of the kaijus as I had, one of each except for the Godzillas. I had to put out many Godzillas, you know what I'm saying? But I had so many kaijus. We had amassed so many creatures during this 100 days, and we were a force to be reckoned with. Imagine like playing PvP and someone pulled up to your base with all these kaijus. I would just quit. But that was it. We had captured all the kaijus we could capture in the time frame of 100 days. But to keep this as close to the monsterverse as possible, I was going to fight the final boss with only monsterverse kaijus, which means all these other kaijus that weren't from the monsterverse had to go. And there we had it. We had all our kaiju from the monsterverse, and they were all so like crazy massive. Then we had King Kong. Beside all of these guys, I was kind of ashamed. King Kong was just so small. Like, I don't know, guys, sorry. I tried to find a King Kong mod. Then I spawned in Kitan Prime, and Kitan Prime came out of the ground and he started wrecking us. Kitan Prime was way stronger than I thought he was going to be. And okay, I know he's called Kitan Prime, but for the rest of this video, I'm gonna call him Shimo because he kind of looks like Shimo, right? Like, look at it. That's kind of like Shimo, right? So therefore I can call it Shimo, right? And the epic battle begun. So guys, this was my 100 days on a kaiju infested planet. I try to keep it as accurate to the monsterverse as possible, but not all the mods existed and not all the mods were working, so I had to make do with what I had. So I hope you guys enjoyed this 100 days, but make sure to like and subscribe and enjoy this final battle because this put me through so much stress. This was the worst final battle I've ever done in my life.
Where did all my kaiju go? There's only a skull crawler. What the hell are my kaiju? Why are you not fighting? Why are Kiryu and this cockroach not fighting anymore? What is actually going on? This is actually so stupid now at this point. This is actually so stupid. Why are they not fighting? $560,000? How am I supposed to defeat this? Get smoked. Damn, I missed. Damn. Okay, I got it down. Please work. Okay, Okay. It's looking better now. It's looking better. What the hell? Bro, at this point, this is not even fair, man. This is just bullying. Why am I in the air, bro? I'm not even flying. Is that a lightsaber? Oh, God. What have I done? Okay, so I don't know what clips I'm gonna leave in, but just to give you guys some context. Basically, he made a move, my Godzilla went flying, I don't even know where. I had to go back to base, and when I went back to base to come back, he's in the ocean fighting my Godzilla, so now I have to fight him in the ocean. Bro, what even was that move, man? My torpor is raising. Gotta get out the ocean. Damn. Yup, I knew it. Yup, I knew it. There we go. There we go. Unconscious. And my torpor is still raising. Great. Just my luck. Just my luck. Wandering drink. What even is a wandering drink? What? You know what? It's okay. The fight is still going on. I gotta go save my Godzillas.
Wait, what?
What is going on? Wait, what? He just transformed! Is this supposed to... How can bro just transform into a dragon? Ain't no way, man. Come on, you've gotta be kidding me. You've actually gotta be kidding me. Bro literally transformed. What is going on? He's almost dead though, come on. He's almost dead though, Is he gonna get stronger? There we go. That's what we're talking about. That's why we the champions and you guys are all losers. We did it. What are you talking about? You thought we was gonna lose? Nah. Damn, we lost so many guns. If I hadn't had all those Godzillas, it would have been a wrap, to be honest. So damn, y'all. That's another 100 days. I hope you guys enjoyed it. But don't forget, y'all, make sure to like and subscribe. And let me know if you want me to do more 100 days, because I'm going to be doing my tutorial videos, but I do like 100 days, so let me know in the comments below. And don't forget, all these mods are actually available for free on Ark Survival Evolved, so if you want to play them and you have the game, make sure to go check them out.